Hello, testing. Testing the stream audio. Okay, audio is good. What's up, everyone? Let's switch over to the desktop view. All right. So, hey, what's up, everyone? I am doing some open world level design tonight. Working on my racing game. Hey, Josh, how's it going? Yeah, I started a little late tonight. And I have no idea what I'm going to do today. Which kind of feels a lot like every day I work on this project. I think the last time I came in here, I did come in here sometime during the week and fixed a bunch of pink materials that were on this airport. I think I still need to put colliders on it. I kind of don't want to work on any specific area's details, so I think I'm just going to ignore that for right now. Nice. I'm glad you're doing good, Josh. I am as well. I kind of feel like I want to work on this section of the map a little bit. Oh, it's a little hot over here. I need to turn on one more fan. I think I always get hotter because I put these noise canceling headphones on so I don't hear anything else that's going on in the house. I love them, but I hate them. I want some noise canceling headphones that don't make your head like 10 degrees warmer. Hey Marcel, how's it going? All right, so where am I going to work today? Decisions. I think I left off last week over here. I set up both of these tunnel entrances. Let's see what that looks like. So I think both of these tunnels are pretty much complete. I still need to work on the spline system and the mesh generation. But they have roads that lead places. What's up, Tyler? Hey, Mikey. Yeah, coding takes a while to learn for games. My advice would just be to watch a bunch of tutorials, specifically the Unity tutorials. They have a Unity Learn section. I'll pull it up really quick for you. If you Google Unity Learn, and I think they have a ton of like premium level content that's free. But in this Unity Learn section, you could find a lot of great stuff. So if you go to the tutorial section, I think you can pick what you want to learn about and just kind of like dive in. As far as learning to code, I think learning to code is not necessarily the most important thing to making a game. But learning what the components inside of Unity engine do is. So for example, like everything that I have in my scene is a game object, and every game object has a transform. And once you understand that, the next thing to learn is that everything that gets attached to a game object, like add component, all components are just scripts. So my advice would be to learn all of the built-in Unity components. Like if you just hit that add component button, you got a ton of stuff that you could go through. So like physics components, you could play around, learn about the box collider, the capsule collider, etc. Do a bunch of tutorials, and the more you work with components, you're going to understand what they are responsible for. And that's when scripting comes into play, because then you'll know what you want to make those components do. So you're either writing scripts to control the values on other components or to create specific functionality. Me personally right now, I'm just actually focusing on level design, which is a little easier. There's no coding involved in that. So it could actually be a lot of fun. And then you could find some kind of scripts on the asset store to do stuff too. Do I think making my own game engine is really hard? For me, it probably would be. I think you would probably start with C++ and build out a bunch of modules to do stuff like render a mesh. I don't really see the value in that, seeing as like all of the major game engines that are available can already do all of those things. So basically, like anything you want to do with lighting and shaders and all that stuff, you got to implement all of that functionality. Yeah. If you're a major studio, like, and you have a huge budget, then you're probably building your own technology. But even so, like, it would be worth comparing Unity and using the asset store to, I don't know, whatever you're spending to build out that tech. And that tech's going to take a lot of people with a lot of expertise in various areas. Yeah, I think there's a lot of companies that use their own engines, because then you don't have to pay royalties to other companies. Do I plan to release Midnight Streets on Steam? And if it does well, bring it to consoles? I mean, yeah, that's always the hope. I've been studying game design and development for almost a decade now. And more than half of that I've been learning about racing games, like meticulously studying like what the mechanics were. And I built a bunch of prototypes and templates, and now I'm kind of like learning about content building, which is fun. This is the biggest environment that I've ever built, and I'm having a blast doing it. But I know that I'm making mistakes, and I know that I'm only one person. So honestly, I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself. But I mean, the goal would be to release something that is successful one day. So yeah, I would love to see games that I make on a console. That would be super awesome. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this road and make it go someplace. I have that road and I have this road in here, but I don't know what I'm doing with this tunnel yet. I have no idea. So maybe that will come to mind as I work on this. And I kind of feel like I keep building tunnels, but tunnels are cool. I kind of feel like this road should go into that mountain now. which would again require another tunnel. But so this road right here might be a perimeter road that kind of goes through the mountain and comes out over here again, and will reconnect to that route over here. I think that's what I want to do. Yeah. Do I want to put it in a tunnel though? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Tunnels are fun. Yeah, I definitely agree. You said Stardew Valley was made by one person and was successful. Yeah, I think if you're passionate about a project and you carry it all the way to completion and like you put all of the polish in the right place, you could definitely do pretty good. It is a lot of work though. Part of the problem with a game like this is like I'm building a huge 3D world, and that's just a monumental task. I think a lot of the games that indie developers do that are successful, um, they use much simpler workflows. Like their scenes, like this scene, like I don't even know how large this scene is. If I expand it right now, like I just have so many objects in the scene, just to kind of put it into perspective. And the scene is not even halfway done yet. So this is probably going to have like, I don't know, if I were to guess, probably like 10,000 objects or 20,000 objects in the scene. So there might be like 100,000 or 150,000 objects in the scene by the time I'm done. Whereas like an average 2D game is like nothing compared to this, like in their scenes. And that's the challenge that I face. Like sometimes I want to go in a different direction just because I know that this is like a monumental task. But at the same time, I'm learning so much by biting off more than I can chew. And I think that knowledge is very important. I'm going to pick a start and an end point for this new tunnel that I'm going to create, because I did decide I do want a tunnel. And again, it's been a week since I've done anything, so I'm probably going to be a little rusty. But I think I remember the workflow. So it'll probably exit somewhere around here. Mike, you said, do I plan on police AI? I'm not sure yet. Probably not, but maybe. Marcel says, as far as I know, it's relatively easy to publish a game for the Nintendo Switch. You have to register yourself as Nintendo dev, and then you get the SDK or so. Yeah, that's pretty much the process for all of them. Whether or not they'll approve your project to be sold is another question. I think if you're a competent developer and like you're putting all of the right ducks in a row, yeah, you could definitely get a project released on any console nowadays. Yeah, Tyler was talking about No Man's Sky being a huge indie game. I don't know how many people worked on No Man's Sky. I think it was it's not one person. I'm pretty sure it was like a few people, but might be like a half a dozen. I don't know. That game was really they put a lot of cool ideas into it, like with the procedural generation. I think for this tunnel, I'm going to take this road section over here. Actually, no, I don't need a road section. Do I? I think I could do it without one. I'm going to try to do it without putting one of those intersections there. Oh, Josh says his internet was super lagged and he missed it. We were just talking about publishing games to Nintendo and other consoles. And my thought was that if you have a good plan and you're a competent developer, you can probably publish to any console that you want. As long as you could finish. Like the big key is knowing, if you know that you can finish a game, I think that gives you a leg up. And then you got to figure out which game you want to finish. So the hard part is being able to get to the point where you know you can finish a game. And then after that, the next hard part is deciding on what to make. And that's why I'm only working on this racing game 1 day a week, because I feel like this is not the right direction to go for financial success, which is obviously a big part of the process. Tyler said my game Midnight Streets reminds me of Midnight Club. Yeah, that was one of my favorite racing games growing up. So if I like were going to like copy a game, it is Midnight Club. I liked how they had a lot of racers with different personalities, and you just kind of race through the city, and it was fun. I feel like they don't have games like that as much anymore. Rockstar is very secret. I'm not sure what you mean by that. I think had I not worked on the remnants of the Dawn game, I might have had more progress with this game. For sure, I would have had more progress, and I would probably be thinking about trying to publish this, which was the original goal. But I am trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I don't know. I don't think this is going to be my major focus. But since I've worked on racing for so long, I don't want to just like stop working on it. Where's the terrain at? Well, Rockstar, at least my interpretation of Rockstar is they work on just huge big budget games, so they only have like a couple games a year or a few games a year, and they're usually like, I don't know, when I think of Rockstar, I think of Red Dead Redemption and GTA. I know they do other stuff too, like smaller projects, but I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, Rockstar did do more back in the day. I think a lot of companies did more back in the day. I feel like the only thing AAA companies are focused on now is big budget games, which is kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie. They're not creative. They're just like regurgitating ideas. But the fact that they're doing that, that kind of like, that's what provides indies to have an opportunity to do something as well. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to set the height. Get a bigger brush. I feel like I'm completely not in the zone today. Have I seen Internal Drift? It's another indie racing game made by 3 people. No, I've not seen that game. I'm curious what it is, though. I like the art style. Oh, I should probably put this on the screen for everybody to see. Yeah, that's got a nice art style. The only thing I don't like about like racetrack games are they're all the same. Like I grew up playing racing games, so like Gran Turismo, the original one, probably played that for hundreds of hours. Racing around tracks is fun, but I think I like the idea of open world, which is why I'm doing this whole city thing. But I really do like their art style. Yeah, the working with the Marcel was saying building the cop AI isn't that hard, but he doesn't have an idea how to make it work with the job system. I don't think you necessarily need to make your cop car AI work with the job system, unless you have like 50 cops. Then you might all want them to run in parallel, but I would think that the job system for a cop car would be a little overkill. Excuse me. Where's my road system? That's what I'm getting lost with. Let me pull that down here. I got all this random stuff that I should put under something. I'm not going to do it on stream, but one day I really got to organize this scene a little bit better. Maybe compartmentalize some of it into other scenes and set up a loading trigger or something. I'm just going to call it stuff for right now. And all of these random things are going to go inside of stuff. Okay. Let me take this entrance out and that entrance out. Now I should not be getting lost in my hierarchy. But yeah, I don't think that you need to do use the job system specifically for a cop AI. I would try the one that comes with Bonecracker Games realistic car controller. In one of his city scenes, he has a cop car. I think it's using navmesh. So like all you need to do is update the position that that car would drive to and have a navmesh baked out in your scene. Tyler was saying he likes open world games for the exploration. Yeah, that's exactly what I love too. When I'm building this stuff and I start driving around in the scene, I just enjoy driving around in the city. And I think if there's stuff to do in the city as well, then like that would make a good game. Like you're already having fun. I don't think that this will come out in 2021. I don't know when it's going to come out. I don't I'm not in a hurry, and I'm also focused on my Unity asset store work. So sometimes like really that's what I do during most of the week is make updates and just try to build out the features. I'm trying to build a consistent revenue stream. And I think if I could get to that point, that will allow me to spend more time making games, which is really what I want to do. Yeah, Josh says he's separating out his levels into multiple scenes and loaded additively, even on solo project. Yeah, like that's something that's super important to do. Like when I load the scene, for example, it literally takes about 45 seconds just to load in the Unity editor. And the reason it's doing that is because it has to process all of the content in the scene. Like you're literally loading all of those textures and FBXs into memory, and then you're not even using most of them. If you do additive, you can do additive scene loading and you could do asynchronous loading. So if you preload the scenes, you could basically toggle on and off like big and complex scenes if they're preloaded, like almost instantly. One of the corporate projects I worked on once did that. Well, that's what we should have did, but they weren't doing it. And I don't know why. I think it was the other programming team just didn't want to. What am I looking for? Smooth height. I remember hearing about dreams a long time ago and never kind of looked into it, but yeah, that I think any time you can just take content and like play with it without having to do any complex programming or thinking, I think that's awesome. But no, I've never tried dreams. Super Mario Maker is also a very good tool to learn about game development. They've been using that formula for decades. I think the way that you get good at making games is figuring out what makes them fun. So first you got to find the games that you like to play, and then you got to analyze them and figure out what they're doing. And then you got to figure out what's the hook, what's making it fun. It's called the player feedback loop. And it involves audio feedback, visual feedback, and like what your hands are actually doing. And you want to make yourself want to just use the controller or use the input to continue playing. I don't think I'm good at that yet. I think it takes a lot of practice And it also takes a lot of time, like a lot of prototyping. Marcel was saying the inefficient part in his system is how the AI does decisions. The main variables to do the decisions are player speed and distance to player. For distance checking, he uses on trigger enter instead of calculating the distance between each cop and player. Oh, so you would put your distance check in a for loop that's using the job system. It's like for each transform. I forget what it's called. Transform access array is what you want to use. And then you can just reference the player's position, pass it to the job, and in your transform access array, you'll have all of the cop car positions. So you could calculate that in parallel. So it would save you. But I would really look into navmesh. I really think navmesh for when I go back into racer AI, I'm definitely going to look into navmesh. What I'm trying to think though about now is like when I look at this world and I think about putting a navmesh on it, my brain just doesn't really comprehend what that means yet because I've never put a navmesh on something this large. First of all, I don't know if the navmesh could even be baked in like a realistic amount of time. Yeah, like that's my challenge with navmesh. I just need to kind of like play with it, which I haven't yet. But I liked what realistic car controller did, so I would imagine that that would be a good base and just try to scale that up on the scale for your city. I'm pretty sure he uses navmesh. Where's the terrain holes? Yeah, there are games for like any type of personality now, which is really cool. I think that entrance is good enough for now. It's like the first tunnel entrance that I made that like didn't give me a hard time. Like I just painted it and it worked. Make sure to save the scene. Okay, and I need a spline to put in there. Let's take this. So last time I was able to duplicate the spline, and I think I just needed to select the components. I'm going to try to do that again. Ooh. Okay, so the spline stays there. Yes. think what I did was I selected the splines. Oh, I need to go into transform mode. Now select all. I feel like something is... I don't know why it's not selecting them. If I select these too fast, it's deselecting the previous selections. Where is my transform handle? What the heck is going on here? Is it because it's in that? Let me try again. I'm gonna reset my layout because I don't know what's going on up there. And let's reconfigure this and try again. Oh, is it because I have update splines on? That's probably why. I have a custom script that I think was just running an update on the spline every time I did something. So it was kind of like canceling what I was doing. I think that's what happened. Try again. So for Remnants of the Dawn, yeah, I don't know. I think we're self-publishing it. Kind of frustrated about that game a little bit. So I was working on it for longer than I wanted to work on it. And I don't know. I think we're self-publishing it though. Sometime in September. I kind of just became hands off for the game because it was stressing me out. I wanted the hierarchy on this side and the project on this side. Yeah, I think the goal for that game changed. It was originally supposed to be just a 1-month project that we used to just kind of do something. And then it turned into the 6-month thing where in the end we were trying to get publishers and the game was being shown to AAA developers. And it's like, what? I was frustrated by that because it was never meant to be something that was shown in that way. And I feel like if you're going to try to get a publisher, you don't make a whole game and then show it to the publisher. Instead, you make a prototype and you polish that prototype up like insanely well, and then you show that to the publisher, and then you get funding to finish it. And it was so since it was supposed to just be a little simple game, I was frustrated in the end because like it wasn't what it was. It was never supposed to be where we brought it in the end. Um, yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Yeah. When 1 month turns into 6 months, it's cool that we made a game. Like, and I'm very proud of that. But I never expected it to be a game that was shown to AAA publishers. And I think that if we'll do something with the intent of getting a publishing deal, it just needs a completely different approach. And I think going through that process just really burnt me out. So I'm kind of just refreshing myself right now. Going back to my roots, working on the asset store stuff, listening to the user feedback, and just building up my own projects and kind of figuring out what I want to do next. I wanted to do a few different things this year, and I didn't want to spend 6 months on that game. So where am I going? I need to find that spline. I think personally, I just spent a lot of time on that project, and I didn't focus on very much else most of the time I was doing that. There we go. Now I got my transform handle. I still don't know if that was a Unity bug. Oh wait, oh wait, this is the duplicate. Yeah. I don't know if that was a Unity bug or what. Okay, so that'll kind of go right there. Let me try to select all these, make sure it gets updated. And I still have one over here, right? Yep, so that one's still here. And this one is now there. Cool. Like, one of the things that I really enjoyed was making this little spline system, which still needs some more work. That's what I like the most about working on this project, is that I'm always pushing the limits to learn new things. So learning how to create spline-based geometry, that was definitely a plus, and I don't know where I'll use that in the future. Right now I'm using it just for this little tunnel system, but I'm really happy that I explored that. I've played with splines a lot in the past, but I never really did anything like geometry. And I think for racing games, splines are used like everywhere. Like, if you look at Mario Kart, for example, that game is basically built around spline-based geometry. Yeah, Josh, that is what it was. But it's okay. Like, I'm not mad about it or anything. It just, I'm the kind of person who likes to plan everything that I do, and I like to stick to the plan. So if the plan changes and I don't, and like it keeps changing, that's where I start to feel uncomfortable. Mostly because I think if we would have went for a publisher from the start, we would have, like, I think like 90, probably 90 to 85% of the work that we did, if we were going to go try to get a publisher, didn't need to be done. Like, we didn't need to build 6 levels and all those bosses. I didn't need to clean up all 6 of those levels, make them optimized. Like, just so much time spent on things that don't really matter, because they're only looking for that vertical slice. But overall, like, it was a good project for me to work on. I learned a lot from it about myself and my own skills, and yeah, I don't regret it. Um, Need to paint that little bit out. Tyler says he likes games that update and evolve, and how No Man's Sky released updates that improve the game. Yeah, that's the best kind of project to work on. Like, if you have a passion project and you're able to make it successful to where you can afford to keep working on it, like, that's the best scenario to be in. And I think that's what happened in No Man's Sky. Like, they were too successful in the beginning and they couldn't meet the expectations for what everybody wanted. But that gave them a bunch of cash to afford to be able to fix it. I'm gonna need to adjust these splines points a little bit. This one is, I'm gonna put them all at the same Y and X. This tool keeps resetting the settings every time I deselect it. Annoying. I feel like I'm constantly just making the same selections. It's a little too wide. I think I'm just going to leave it. What I'll probably do is I'll just use Pro Builder once I finalize the meshes, and I'll just adjust the UVs a little bit. It's probably the easiest thing to do. I think that's good enough for now. Okay, so now I'll just extend this tunnel all the way around. See how far I'll go. So what I did last time, I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to disable the entire terrain for a moment. And I'm going to create a giant plane. And then I'm going to use this plane for placement of these spline points. Well, let's see, what's that Y value again? And I'll just set that Y value to this plane. Wow, I was way off. And now I will select the spline, add points, surface, And I'll just click a little bit. And that should be good enough, at least for right now. And now I can get rid of this plane. I'll leave it in the scene just in case I need it. So one of these nodes will just end up going to that. Trying to figure out which node. I think it'll be this one. One of these two. I think I'll make it this one right here. So let's add a new road. And this new road will let's do it from right here, yeah. These roads are 4 lanes. The width is 5.7. And they have no shoulders. I'll just save the scene really quick and let's just give it a go. That is not what you were supposed to do. Oh, that's because I have stuff checked out in version control. That's correct. I don't know why Perforce is being funny lately. Maybe it needs to be updated. I think it's been some time since I've checked for a Perforce update. The road architect files are not stored inside of Unity, so I can't check them out from Unity. Is this even connected to Perforce? Perforce 7 issues? What's up? Huh. Oh, it is connected. Maybe it connected once I logged in. I don't know. Usually I'm able to leave that machine completely on its own and it just works. Check out. Why can't I check out? Okay, there we go. Cool. Marcel, you said, have I been thinking about adding a way to use the road architect splines as a base for the traffic system to automatically set up the AI traffic routes? Yeah, I've actually, I wrote a test script and I was able to do it. I honestly only spent about a half hour or an hour trying. The problem that I ran into with the spline data that I was reading was, hold on one second. Was that like, you could see these red lines here. So this red line is the spline. I don't know if there was a different data set that I needed to read, but when I first ran the process, it generated traffic points through the intersection and even past the intersections along the spline, which wasn't what I wanted. So I need to find a way to make it like only generate routes up until the intersection. And if I could find a way to do that, then yes, I'll probably like release that script, but right now it's not something that is functional. I was hoping it would work. There we go. Yeah, I wish I had better news. I might take another crack at it once I finish this road network because it would save some time, but also it really doesn't take that long once you become familiar with like the workflow. You just use the spline route creator. So like I could use the spline route creator to create an AI traffic route for these 4 lanes all the way from this intersection to wherever the next intersection is to here. And I could do that in like probably 2 to 3 minutes. And then I could configure the rest of this in a few minutes. So it's not really like as bad as it was originally when you had to manually place every single waypoint. I think the workflow is actually pretty efficient with the spline route creator. But I do see where you're coming from. Okay, where's that path right now? Yeah, I think what's going to happen is there's this other tunnel here, and the roof of this tunnel is pretty much right around the same spot that this is going to go. So this new spline needs to go right over. I think right now it is. So I'll extend it. I guess just right to this edge. This map is 8 square kilometers. So it's 8,000 unity units by 8,000 unity units. I think this centerpiece is like a little too big. So I am going to cheat a little bit. I hate doing stuff like this because the model should be accurate. And I think that this affects like lighting and physics. But I'm going to try shrinking it a little bit. The X scale axis. That might be too much. There we go. Yeah, I would like to have intersections in these tunnels, but I'm going to refrain because I can just end up spending way too much time on this. I want to add a little bit of height variation to this tunnel too. Well, maybe I'll do that at the end once I drive through it. Trying to make it so it's not so straight. That way when you're in the tunnel, you could only see so far ahead, which will help for performance. Oh, Tyler said he's been watching all the Midnight Streets devlogs recently and enjoys watching them. Hope more come. Yeah, Yeah, the goal was to get the game out in a year, but I've reassessed that goal because I don't want to stress myself out, and finances I think are not going to allow for that. I'd need to move in 6 months. My lease is up, and I got to figure some stuff out. I might actually go and yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I got to figure out. But I'm glad you're enjoying them. The project is still alive. Project's not dead. I'm just not actively focused on releasing a game. I feel like I want to come up with another game idea and release a game that I can finish without like trying to rush it. Because I think that if I take my time with this project, I can eventually release a very good game that like I would love to play, and I think that's the goal. Whereas if I just try to get it out by a certain date, I'm not building what I want to build. I'm just trying to meet a deadline. The problem with this project is it's just too big. I can make a racing game in a couple months if I want to, but it's not going to be the racing game that I want to play. It'll probably be just like every other racing game that other people can make from buying my template in a month. Some tracks, some cars, and racing, and well, yeah, like I can do that and it'll generate money. That's not the kind of work that I want to do. Like that work wouldn't make me proud. Mladen Denik said how to start in Unity. Oh, he said hi, he's new to programming. Can you tell me how to start, please? Yeah, somebody else asked that question a little bit earlier. Go to this Google Unity Learn and just click on the Unity Learn link that comes up. There's also like different sections, so you could see tutorials are here too. And what you want to do when you get to the tutorials page, you could get it to it from the first link as well, but you would select your level. So if you're a foundational or a beginner, the topic that you want to learn about, and just kind of see what comes up. So like they used to have a whole different layout for this. I kind of like the old layout better, to be honest. Yeah, they changed it. They used to list things a little bit differently. But like, let's say you want to learn about scripting. So they have scripts as behavior components, variables and functions, change game object position. Like these are all the basics. So if you come in here and go through these, you're probably gonna learn a lot. I think the biggest thing that I can give as advice is everything in Unity is a game object. So everything that I have in my scene is a game object, and all game objects have transforms, which is the component that sets the position, rotation, and scale for that object. And then there's this add component menu, which has all of the other components. And once you know what the components do, For example, the example I gave previously was a collider. So if you go to physics box collider and you add a box collider to your object, that gives you a box collider. So you could click the little question mark right here, which will pop open a Unity web page that takes you to the manual for the box collider, and you could read about what it does. So like as a option called isTrigger, and if it's enabled, the collider is used for triggering events, and it's ignored by the physics engine. So that means things don't collide, and it could be used inside of a script. And I think just learning about all of the different Unity components is the best thing that you can do. All of the built-in Unity components. Yeah, no problem. I hope you enjoy it. There's a lot to learn. It took me, I've been learning Unity for about 10 years now, and I still have a lot to learn. Over that time, I learned a lot about scripting and a lot of the like usability inside of the engine, but I didn't learn a lot about shaders. Like there's so many different disciplines that you can take. I didn't learn a lot about animation and like the artist workflow. I kind of stuck to the perspective of programmer workflow. And I did that because I felt that if you're going to make anything like a video game, why didn't the road update? You need to be able to program it. So I learned programming first. I think before I started using Unity, I was more of an artist, but I didn't know like any digital art skills. But learning the programming fundamentals, I eventually had to learn a lot about art, because like if you're going to program like an animated driver, for example, you need to learn about that. Or like even something simple like physics, like the car controller. You need your model to be built a certain way. And then when you're working on performance and optimization, you learn more like, oh, this car model was built inefficiently. It has too many materials. So you learn a lot about other disciplines while focused on a specific area. But kind of have it in the back of your mind like what you want to eventually do. You want to work on shaders and graphics, or do you want to work on programming? Or do you want to work on animation or character controllers or level design? Do you want to go and work at a studio, or do you want to work on your own? There's so many different things you can do, and I think all of those factor into that decision. Oh, you're fine. I'm streaming because I enjoy talking about like Unity and game development and sharing what I'm doing. And honestly, like I'm in this room with nobody else to talk to, so I don't mind at all. I could probably do a video like that. I think I'm just like everybody else. I don't know what to do. So I don't think of myself as like a success yet. And maybe that's why I wouldn't make a video like that. But I'm sure that like for a brand new person, there's value. I think after doing it for a specific amount of time, you just kind of lose sight of like where you were as a beginner and what you found valuable. So, and when I say that, that's what I've realized. Like I kind of forget how beginners think about it. Maybe I'll do a video like that. That's a good idea, though. It would really just kind of be like shameless self-promotion too, though. Like, hey, everybody, I've been making stuff for 10 years, and this is what I've done and what I've learned, and this is what I'm going to do next. By the way, please buy my Unity assets. I think if anything, I did think about doing some beginner level tutorials. I don't know how much interest there is in that. I know there's just so many places you could go for tutorials too. Like, I think the most recent tutorial that was not about my own products that I made was for Road Architect. And that tutorial was pretty good. I think there were like 100 and something people that liked it. I did a tutorial a long time ago that had almost 1 million views that taught people how to make Android apps with Unity before like there was other people talking about it. But it became old and outdated, so I just removed it. I remove a lot of my old tutorials if I feel like they're not good anymore. Tyler said making games can be hard, but the fun part is you can pretty much do anything with the game you make. Yeah, that's true. Before I got into game development, I played World of Warcraft like all of the time, like an embarrassingly a high amount of time. And then I decided that I wanted to learn to make games. And since then, now I spend that time programming and making games and stuff. And I kind of feel like yeah, I still miss playing World of Warcraft because I had so much fun in that game. I love playing player versus player, but um, there's a joy about being able to make whatever you want inside of your game that is uncomparable to playing games. What programming language should you learn first and where? Well, it depends what you want to do. If you want to use Unity, C#. That's the only language you can use in Unity. If you want to use Unreal, C++. But before I would even learn C++, I would play with Unreal first until you hit the point where you need to start programming. What I like about Unity is you could kind of like use Unity as a front-end client for any type of software. So like you could build back-end databases and stuff and using AWS, Amazon Web Services, and then hook the Unity client up using the Amazon SDK to be able to access database services, and you could create servers on Amazon, and you could do all kinds of different things. So C# with Unity is really powerful. That's my skill set. I don't really know too much about other programming languages. You can't use JavaScript in Unity anymore, though, Josh. They took that out a while back. Maybe like 2 or 3 years ago. Okay. Personally, though, I really enjoy using C Sharp. I would highly recommend it if, as a first language, if you haven't done any programming yet. There's a lot of Unity tutorials on YouTube that are C Sharp focused, and you could, like, you don't need to know anything about the engine or the language. You just follow the tutorial and you'll like build some kind of functionality that you can like reflect on. Okay, now I'll just smooth out this terrain, paint a hole, and I should have the other end of my tunnel. I don't really like the shape of this road, to be honest. But we will see what happens. Is game dev my only job? Right now, yeah, working with Unity as an asset store publisher, that's my current job. I was doing some contract work, but the contract it dried up and haven't had any contract work for about a year or so now. I'm kind of getting to the point where I think I might start looking for a job because I don't know if any is going to come in anytime soon. So I did a big refresher on all of my asset store stuff this year. I made the new traffic system and put a ton of work into tutorials and functionality for it. I don't think that that's going to be enough to pay all the bills though. So trying to think what I want to do next. I went to school for computer networking and cybersecurity. I graduated about 6 years ago. So when I started going to school was when I started learning Unity. And I worked on a couple large projects. One of them was for Carnival Cruise. And I worked on that for about 4 years. Basically, like, I was doing a lot of front end UI in Unity, and I enjoyed that job, and it paid well. So I'm trying to decide what type of job that I want to go for right now. I could either like go and apply at like game studios. I might move to another city. I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to figure my life out right now. There's a lot of decisions I need to make. Oh yeah, Python is like always a useful language. Python's probably, that's the only programming that I had experience with in school. We had a introduction to programming class, and I built paper, rock, scissors with Python. But they didn't teach us like what else you could use Python for. But basically, you could use Python for anything. Like, because I think it's a really low-level language that allows you to plug into anything else. So like you could write a Python script to connect to Unity and do stuff with Unity, I believe. What I would do with that, I don't really know. But it's something you can do. My first real programming experience was programming for Kali Linux, if anybody knows what that is. It's penetration testing software. It's an operating system. And that's when I realized if I'm not going to go and be like a security expert, I don't want to learn those skills because there's not a whole lot you can do with that that's legal unless you're like a penetration tester. And the stuff that I was learning was honestly kind of was scaring me. And that's when I picked up Unity instead and switched to C#. But yeah, some of my first scripts that I ever wrote were Linux bash scripts for the Kali Linux operating system that would use different modules to do different things and different functionality to basically do things like man-in-the-middle attacks. I only did the stuff on my own network. I never did anything malicious with it. And then I was like, nope, I'm going to learn game development instead. I don't think I'll go to jail for writing a game development script. The thing that I can say about, so I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Mladen Denik says 1st of September, starting a new secondary school for programming, and they don't know if they should pick game dev or ethical hacking. It was a lot of fun learning about hacking. The great thing about learning to hack is that you're learning about different technology. And I think that the more you know about technology, the better, especially from a networking and operating system perspective. I think those are the things that allowed me to get that first job that I had, which was working on that Carnival Cruise contract project. If I didn't have the computer networking and cybersecurity background, like I had that job 100% remotely, so I never went on site and did any work anywhere. I was at my own house, and nobody told me how to like set up version control or connect to version control or do X or Y or Z. They're like, this is your job and this is the task you're assigned to and this is what you have to do. So when you learn about networking and hacking, you're basically learning how the fundamentals of how the internet works, which can really give you a leg up in a lot of different situations. So I would recommend it, but Honestly, I think when I was going to school, I thought that if I were to try to go into game development, I would probably fail. That's why I went and studied computer networking and cybersecurity instead. But the reality was, like, I'm doing what I wanted to do anyway, which was game development and programming. So I think no matter what you end up choosing, the thing that you want to do is what you're probably going to end up doing unless you settle. I just need a terrain smoother. I did have one job working in a what department was it? We weren't in DevOps. We were like infrastructure ops, which is just like infrastructure operations for it was for the Sears website. Honestly, I hated that job. My boss was he was a jerk. I did not like that guy at all. Like, no regard for your feelings. And then when I was working on the carnival project where you have like actual like people, it's so different to work with creative people versus like only technical people. Game dev is highly technical, but creative people are just, they're nicer to be around. Now, I don't know if every infrastructure ops or DevOps places like that, but yeah. And I also grew up wanting to make video games. Okay, I think I'm ready to paint a hole in this. I feel like I might need to lower it a little bit. Let's see. I'm just gonna paint a hole and see what happens. I'm gonna try to lower all of this to the ground. I wish Unity would add like a vert tool, so you could like select verts from the terrain and pull them in the direction that you want. That would be awesome. Really, just for this paint holes feature. I never had another need for that. Well, maybe I could think of some needs. You said I deserve a minimum of 1 million subs. I think you have to earn that. That's the hard part. I think I'll push this over here and pull it down a little bit more. Yeah, I think if I did tutorials and focused on stuff like that, I would have more subscribers. The problem is there's just only so much time in a day. So I don't typically focus on YouTube as much as I could. I do kind of want to start a tutorial series though. I just don't know what I want to make a tutorial about. I was thinking about making a video and just like gauging interest of the viewers and see if people vote on it or if they're even interested in it. Camera's like wobbling all around. Focus on this object. Tyler said he'll make a fan page when Midnight Street comes out. Yeah, that would be cool. I think you can make a fan page for anything whenever you want. That's a good way to get into like internet presence and just building traffic. Could monetize it in a bunch of different ways. Affiliate marketing, ads. Josh says a tutorial on IK. Yeah, not many people. Honestly, when I made that IK driver, I did that thing like that was one of the first things I did when I started my racing project. I'm pretty sure I made the first version of that like 7 years ago. And I was like, somebody else is gonna do this, and nobody ever made one. And I was just shocked. I was like, how come nobody made one? That one of the guys that the guy that wrote NWH vehicle physics, I was chatting with him and he was telling me he's going to do some bike physics and he wanted to know because I made the arcade racers support his vehicle physics, he was thanking me for that and wanted to know if I'd do it for his motorcycle asset when he makes that. And I said, I'm sure he can do it. Like, he's programming physics. And he just said no, it wasn't something he's really comfortable with. So I guess that just goes to show, like, something that one person might think is easy is not always as easy. Maybe I will do a tutorial in IK. Because obviously I saw something that other people didn't. That's a good idea. Thanks, Josh. What am I doing? I just want to lower this. That height. Okay, that should get rid of all of those holes. Hopefully they didn't protrude. No, I think I'm okay. Oh, that ground is too low. That's okay. I'll figure it out. Yeah, IK would be a nice tutorial. Maybe I'll come up with something. The problem though with that is if I teach people that, then I probably won't be making money from my avatar driver, because then they'll program it themselves. Well, for Marcel said when he sets an 8-kilometer map, it feels small. This is my 8-kilometer map, and when I look at it, yes, it does seem small. But what I can tell you is that just this little section here, I've driven around it. It's a nice size section. And I think that's like 1/10 of the map. So basically having a full map be 10 times what this section is. And keep in mind, you could also build up and build down. Like, you just don't need to build outward. And that's another way you can kind of like stay within that floating point precision limit and still add more content. All right, bye, Mladen. Have a good night. 100-kilometer by 100 kilometers sounds too big. Like, with what I have here, you'd basically have a map that's like almost as big as the grid that you see here. And you'd have to fill all of that with content and make sure there's no bugs in any of it, which to me, that's too much work for one person. Way too much work. Yeah, when I was looking, I agree with Josh. Sector was the one that I looked at. I actually bought Sector, and I looked at it and I gave it a little bit of thought. Let me see. I never used it though. I think I have 2 different world streaming assets. I don't know if Sector's the only one that I have. Although when they show like something like this with just 4 rooms, like, that doesn't, I get that they're streaming it, but you don't really need to stream only 4 rooms. But something like this allows you, I think somewhere, I can't control F to search here, somewhere in here it does say that they have a something that solves floating point precision. The only problem with that is that it's not really intuitive to the way you build. Like all of your content needs to conform to their system. And then during runtime, everything kind of gets snapped to the center of the world. And sometimes the player will snap back to the center of the world. So all of your code and assets, they need to support that type of runtime process. Where's that plane? What's the height? These should be 250.4283. Honestly, I think that you should just build within the limits that you're allowed to now. Like, kind of think about it like this. Like, back in the day, like, let's go back to PlayStation 1 GTA. I think that map was about the same size map that we have here, which kind of was the limit for what you can do. GTA 3 I'm talking about on PlayStation, which was the limit that you could go without floating point precision errors. Like, they probably ran into it there too. I don't know how Unreal deals with it. Maybe their engine can just support those larger numbers. Somebody said somewhere that it needs to be a 64-bit application to support it. What I do know, though, so I have a timer asset. In that timer asset, I let people count days, and eventually the timer, which uses a float value, would get to a point where it just couldn't calculate the float anymore, because literally the digit amount of a float, like the trailing amount and what's in front of and behind the decimal, like you can only have so many numbers within Unity, and that's where floating point precision breaks down once it's after a certain value. So like you were only able to get up to like, I don't know, 10 days or something like that. Anyway, long story short, I ended up updating the asset to use doubles instead of floats. And guess what? Now, like, you're able to have insanely large numbers that you would never be able to calculate before with regular floats. And I think Unity Engine is built around floats. So if they were instead built around doubles, which I'm sure the engineers that build Unity, like, they'd know more than I do about this. But I would be willing to bet that they're actually trying to solve that problem. So I would wait until they solve it. And I think as one person, you could work with the same amount of space that GTA 3 worked with and still be able to create something really cool with that space. That's just my opinion on the subject. Yeah, double. A double is basically a float. It just supports larger value types. A double is just a float, basically a float. Like if you search C# double, actually the first thing that comes up is floating point numeric types. And it's interesting because like the float is the lowest amount, and here you could kind of start getting into like a bunch of like stuff that I'm not going to pretend to know what I'm talking about. But The double is much larger. So see, it says 15 to 17 digits, whereas a float is 6 to 9 digits. And that's the issue with Unity is like once your object goes like 4,000 units in one direction, you reach that limit of the float, whereas the double can just support much larger limits. I've never actually programmed with decimal though, which looks like it could support 28 to 29 digits, which obviously that's much, much larger. Yeah, that's really all that's happening is that the value types that they're using are just, they're too small. And sector doesn't solve that problem. But I imagine that Unity at some point will build their engine to support larger data types. I've never heard them talk about it, so don't quote me on that. It's just my educated guess on the subject. Because if anybody can fix that, it would be them. And then that would mean you don't need to go through custom workflows like using sector. But I think no matter what custom workflow you use to fix that issue, you're gonna have like, it's not gonna make your job easy. Yeah, so like the rigid bodies, everything would need to use a double so they could have more accurate tracking of the values. Okay, I'm almost at the right height. No, I'm not. Wait. Oh, that's the other node. Okay. One of the things that I like about Road Architect is that it has that road grade setting, which prevents me from raising or lowering the road too much, which would make it too steep. But the downside of it is that when you're trying to build uphill like this, it can take a little bit longer than you want it to. There we go. I don't know if I've seen terrain slicing and dynamic loading kit. Yeah, that's what I believe, Josh. I think that if you're like, I think the most successful indies they all have constraints in their project. Meaning that like they're working within limits. And sometimes the reason it's hard to be successful is because you just have too many options and you don't know which one to use. Now I have a piece of something somewhere that I can use to fill that hole over there. I'm really liking these tunnels. It kind of like makes the environment feel unique. I'm not gonna lie, when I was looking at this landscape a long time ago, I was like, how am I gonna make this feel cool? But it's starting to come together. I'm really looking forward to getting to the point where I could put some vegetation in here and some more street props. Basically the point where I get to detail the world and make it feel awesome. Put my special touch on it. And then get to the point where I can play with graphics and lighting, post-processing. I'm gonna try to pull in, where's that tunnel at? This spline point right here. Yeah, and then I'll just pull that other one out, the tunnel entrance out a little bit. Oh, maybe I don't need, I think I still do need it. But, I need this? I don't think I do. Josh says he learned to love constraints. They force you to make design decisions that otherwise might be much harder if left open-ended. Yeah, like I think that's the thing about it is like they just help reduce the amount of options, which makes it easier for you to just move forward. And I think going through that practice, like I've not built like a ton of like short prototypes, which is something that I want to do soon. Like I kind of want to get into game jams and stuff and just start working with like really aggressive constraints, like 2 days time frame. Because if you could create a bunch of different prototypes in 2 days for each prototype, or even like get to the point where you could create prototypes in a few hours, you're going to be able to create some cool stuff. And then you could evaluate what you feel about each prototype and whether or not it's worth spending more time on. Me personally, that's what my goal is. Let me save the scene in this project. I've been working a couple hours. I think that in your game, like with the screenshots you've shared and like the videos that I've seen in the past. Oh, I brought that way too high. What did I do there? What am I doing? Yeah, Marcel, your your stuff looks good. I think you should work with just finishing it and getting it out there. When I made my first mobile app, I don't know how many games you've made in the past, but I remember watching some race that you made. It was like a 3-minute race or something, and it had a boss battle. And that was cool. I think just getting the content out there is the best thing that you can do. The first game that I made was it was called Midnight Sports. It was a racing game for Google Play. And like it kind of went viral, but I broke it. Like I literally published an update with the new version of Unity and different physics that I couldn't take back. But that game was making me like I think $100 a month at the point that I broke it. And I was having like 1,000 or thousands of downloads every day, and it was just going up. But I didn't know what to do with the project, like obviously because I broke the app. When I published an update, it didn't have what was in it before, and people didn't like it anymore. So the traction just disappeared. And that was probably one of the best learning experiences that I've ever had. It was expensive learning experience. Because had I not done that, I would probably still have that app today, and it probably would have earned me like a nice chunk of cash. So that's not a hole. Shrink this down a little bit. Now that's a hole. Yeah, that's my same problem, Josh. I'm a perfectionist, and I don't know when to call it. Actually, I do know when to call it. I don't like to. But I definitely want to do some game jams pretty soon. I think that's how I'll progress to the next level for myself and my skill set. Marcel said, how do you pay taxes when you publish to the Play Store? You have to care about that. Basically, when you make something and you sell it, you you file a 1099 or something. I'm not great with tax terminology, but it's like a 1099. Like you're you want to go and register with the IRS as a business, and you make a business name like me. My business name is Turn the Game On, and then they give you a tax ID number. So when you file your taxes, you just register as like a sole proprietor. And then any money you make, you put under that tax ID number, and you just report it for your taxes when you do your taxes. Yeah, being a perfectionist is not, it's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. Like I'm playing Final Fantasy VII remake right now with my spare time, and I'm literally like, I'm not playing at the game at the pace the game wants me to play at because I'm stopping and searching for everything, examining everything. Like, no, I have to see everything this game has to offer. So I think for this, I I mean I just fixed it by pulling the ground out closer. For some reason it I doubt there's road under this terrain. I will dig down a little to check. Oh, there is. Okay, I was wrong. There. Um, just got to get the right height. Try to get in here. Maybe this will be good enough for now. Yeah, I hate playing games and doing that. Like I recognize I'm doing it, but I don't know. I guess that's just how I feel. I want to explore it all. And also when I play the game, I'm not really enjoying the game. Like I'm like, why did they do this? This doesn't make sense. Did they put something here like and just forget about it? And then I would go and do something like solve a puzzle or something, and then that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense now. So I'm not playing the game to enjoy the game. I'm like being critical of the game design and trying to learn from it. I guess people that make movies and stuff, they also suffer from that whenever they watch a movie. They're looking at like the camera shots and angles, special effects. Well, this road seems good enough for now. That is pretty cool. So I got a lot of tunnels. I like those tunnels. Somewhere in this city, like this area that's finished, I'm going to create some underground entrances and build down. Thing I was wondering about, I don't think that I have any geometry that protrudes down except these like legs over here, which I can edit if I have to. But yeah, I plan on building some type of underground area. I don't know if it'll go through the whole map, but it'll at least be over here though. I remember in Midnight Club, I think they had a lot of like random like areas where you could go through underground tunnels to get to a different street. Yeah, all of the asset store developers started making a Discord channel, so I made one too, and anybody. It was mostly for asset store stuff, but I made some places for other people to share their projects and just kind of chat with each other as well. Trying to figure out what I want to do with how I want to try to fix this. Because the problem is that's a hole. So if I fill it, then there's going to be like a wall right here. I guess I could bring it a little bit farther back. Let's try that. I really like the idea of No Man's Sky. That was kind of a genius idea. So I think this node needs to be the same height as this node. Honestly, when I think about it, I don't think a racing game is even the game that like I want to make. It's a great passion project. And I learn a lot from it. But I really enjoy fantasy type games. Final Fantasy games were like probably some of my most favorite games. I also like Blizzard games, but I really think Blizzard doesn't care about their fans anymore. And every Blizzard game that I play, I feel like they've kind of they intentionally change them, and they're changing them for the worse. It's like they don't make games just to make games anymore. They used to make the best games. Now I feel like they just care about making the most money. Am I interested in getting into VR development? So I was. I bought an HTC Vive Pro when it released, and I was going to get into VR development. And I'm kind of sad at how that turned out because the unit that I had a broken base station. Like it was rattling and it wasn't doing anything. No. And they made me return the whole kit. I had just been adjusting all of these with the wrong pivot. I have to undo. But anyway, long story short, I had to return the whole kit, and I was just like, I'm not going to get into VR right now at that point. But it was always something I was interested in. One of the guys I was working with was heavily into VR. And I think all of the projects he was on were VR related projects. So the short answer is yes. But I don't have a reason to do it right now. You said you love Blizzard games and you're concerned they're losing what makes them awesome. Yeah, Blizzard is kind of like Blizzard was always my favorite company. I played the original Warcraft on a Windows 95 machine back in the day. And it was like amazing. I remember playing Warcraft 2 and the expansions, and then Warcraft 3 and loving it. StarCraft 2. Lately, every time I play StarCraft, I like to play multiplayer. I go on and there's like just kids that are telling you, make sure you don't F up. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, I'm already like, no, I don't want to play anymore. And then somebody from the team leaves and then I leave. And it's just like, well, so now we're just entering games just to leave games. Like, because everybody just talks crap to each other. It's like they think it's an esport because people play it as an esport, so you can't play the game casually anymore. And then everything that they're also doing, like with their franchises, or the things that they're not doing with their franchises. I loved World of Warcraft. I wasn't an early adopter. I played with their first expansion, the Burning Crusade. And every expansion that happened after that, it was, I stopped playing when they made Mists of Pandaria. I was like, seriously, pandas? Like I grew up playing Warcraft. This is World of Warcraft. I played all the Warcraft games and I never saw a panda. And now when Kung Fu Panda releases, we're getting Mists of Pandaria. Like, come on now. That's when I quit. And also like they always like make you go to the new areas instead of letting you play in the areas that you liked. I like that PvP island, Isle of Caldanus or something. But they take all of the action away from there, and then they kind of like force you to upgrade. I don't know. I miss the days when they made games and the game stayed what it was forever. Like, I don't like the idea of changing worlds. Hey Marcel, have a good night. I know it's late where you are. Yeah, Tyler, you're right. Anything that's procedurally generated is easier to update. The hard part is building all of the systems around the procedural generation. I think I need to change this road a little bit, unfortunately. Yeah, that's what I'm going to try to do. That way the angle of this gap matches the angle of the road and the tunnel entrance. Day one, yeah. I missed out. I didn't learn about World of Warcraft until I saw it on South Park. I was like, oh, I gotta try it. And then I was hooked. I made a guild called Alliance Hunting Club, and we were on a Horde server, and we did world PvP, and we did just that. We hunted the Alliance. It was so much fun. We created epic like world battles. All right, so this terrain needs disable the collider. Maybe that'll make it so I stop selecting it. Maybe not. California time's the best time. All the guys that I worked with were in California, so like I kind of am on California time even though I'm not. But I also stay up really late. Oh, I don't want to move this. I have to move this though. Here's my Well, I mean, it's more aligned than it was before, so I'll give it a shot. I might have to nudge this around a little bit. Do I think 2D games are the easiest to make? Maybe you'll make some smaller games first. Yeah, I think like one of the first games that I'll show you guys the first game I ever made. This was, I don't think it took me very long to make it, and I can actually I could remake this game with good graphics, which is something that I thought about doing. So this was a game that I made. Let's see, how long did I make this? In 2013. Really a simple game. It's just like a two-dimensional 2.5D, and the player can like aim in wherever the mouse is at, and then you could shoot by clicking the mouse. So I had some sensors, and the goal is basically just to get to the end of the level. And it's kind of like a puzzle platformer where you got to figure out the correct path and kind of be a little sneaky about it. So like the sensors had a distance on it, and all you have to do is get to the end of the level. So yeah, like something like this, I could build out 100 different levels and put good graphics on this, and some cool animations, nice character controller. Like go the full 9 yards, but like work with something very simple. I think I made 2 levels, so this was the second level, or maybe I made. This looks like the first level though. Thought I made 2 levels. Maybe I only made 1 level. Anyway, I've often thought lately about going back to that game and just making a game with it, because it's something that I can probably do in a very short amount of time, 100% by myself. So I would highly encourage that. That's why you see so many indies making pixel art games, because then they can say, I did all of the art and programming by myself, because all you're doing is pixel art, which like anybody can do it. Only like masters can do awesome pixel art. But if you can make decent pixel art that looks kind of cool, then it's 100% unique and it's all yours. For some reason, I think like people who review games and talk about indie games, they frown upon people who build games using things like the Unity Asset Store. I disagree. I think if you can figure out how to put things together, though, like, doesn't matter if you're using assets or not, like, you know what you're doing. And yeah, I mean, nobody has the budget that studios have. Like, if you're broke, like, but you could buy some art on the asset store, like, you can now do something that a studio can do because you were able to acquire the same types of art that they do, or the same quality level of art. And then you just got to figure out how to try to make it look unique. Maybe use Substance Painter and put some textures on it. And I think there's a whatever way feels like it's good for you is a good way to make games. think I need to paint this a little. I won't lie though, like even though I dislike what Blizzard's been doing lately, if they made a good game like StarCraft 3, I'm going to buy it. If they made Diablo 4, I'm still going to buy it. I think my most favorite games though, like I love Twisted Metal, so the game that I want to make is obviously like a car combat game. And my whole thought process was by the time that I finished a racing game, I should have the skills to create a car combat game like Twisted Metal. And I think that I have that now. I haven't finished the racing game yet, so I don't want to start a car combat game. Because once I have this game finished, like slapping some weapons on it and making an arena is going to be like a walk in the park. Yeah, I would have thought that like both of those games would have been out by now. StarCraft 3 and Diablo 4. They made a mobile game instead. They said, we want new customers. We don't like you guys that have been hanging around for the last 30 years. Set height. When I was a kid, I wanted to work at Blizzard. I had no idea what programming was then. I had no idea what like different art programs were. But I remember looking at their website and reading some of the job descriptions and stuff like that. I was like, wow, that would be cool one day. But now that I'm an adult and I have skills that might be able to get me a position there, I I don't want to anymore because like I feel like as a company they've let me down. I should rephrase that. I feel that as my most favorite company in the world that I love to death, they don't care about the fans anymore, which I was one of. So it would be hard to work for them. Where's this face at? There we go. Okay, where set height? Is there a road under here? Yes, cool. Okay, so I'll take this path spline again. I'm probably going to go into this asset and edit that variable that sets the mode to be static so it stops changing. But at least there's no holes. This line's up now, so I'll take that. Okay, one more terrain height. Hit it. We should be good. At least good enough for now. How this tunnel entrance looks. Okay. Not too bad. Had a little bit of Z fighting there. I think the rotation's a little off, but that's fine. Sweet. I am making progress. So let's see, the orphan road that I have right now. Oh, I have this road too. I don't know where that one's gonna go. Let's see. I've been streaming almost 3 hours. Probably call it quits soon. Let me just smooth some of this terrain out. I think that's what I'll do. I think once I'm completely done with all of the road networks and the areas, I will likely bring Gaia back in and stamp around to add some detail. So I'm kind of just doing like big broad strokes right now. Everything will, literally everything will have more detail added to it later. I'll probably grab some like hero meshes, like some rocks and stuff like that to put as like cliff walls. I have so many different vegetation and environment assets from like nature manufacturer. And those will really help bring this scene to life. And then I'll probably play with the micro splat shaders and try to make everything look good. I really like the way CTS made everything look, but unfortunately that asset was not fun to work with. Yeah, thanks, Josh. It's starting to feel like it's getting interesting. This is just the primary like routes, so I'm gonna create a lot of like secondary routes and just different places to go. Like all of these race courses, there's gonna be a place or a way for the player to enter it. That way they could like choose events. Maybe in the parking lot, they'll meet a rival or something. Oops. I accidentally smoothed over some areas that I didn't want to. Had to undo that. Yeah, Tyler, you're right. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do from a software development perspective or a web app perspective that you can use to like build something. I've played with some of that stuff and it is really cool. Me personally, I really enjoy working with Unity. I think since I first found it, I just liked creating stuff. And I've created like a lot of technical prototypes for different purposes. Like things that could be software that could be sold to different companies like hotels or something, like that they could put in the front lobby as a kiosk, like map wall type stuff. That was a recent project I did. These are the guy. This is the guy that I was working with, or the company that I was working with, Arion Digital. This was an app that I built. They paid me to build it. We used Unity, and I did all of the programming, so front end and back end, and we also had a database editor to edit the back end from a Unity front end. For some reason, though, like I think my browser has bad data in it. I was trying to pull it up. Let me try Firefox. And we made this was all his idea. This wasn't my idea. But they went and they tried to pitch this to some hotels, and unfortunately we weren't able to find a client. I don't know why I'm getting errors on that. I don't know if it's going to load because it had an error. Let's see if it loads in Edge. But this was a fun app. We used a lot of different technical stuff. So this worked on like big touch walls or an iPad. Did it error again? Oh, here it is. I thought there was a full screen button on it, but maybe we didn't. So this is just running WebGL in a web browser. It's sitting on an AWS server, and it's plugged into like a DynamoDB database. And I don't remember if there's any other services plugged into it, but like you would pick what you want to look at: amenities, spa and fitness, dining. And the idea was hopefully a hotel would want this, and then they would pay us to build it. But this was just a prototype. So you click on what you want, get full screen videos, information about the venue, a menu, and then we also like started developing a booking feature, which we prototyped and it worked. But yeah, we just never were able to get a client. So I was paid to build this, but the person who paid me didn't actually have any return on investment because we didn't get a client. So there's so many different types of things you could use Unity to build, but this was a fun project, and it definitely was fun to work with like external APIs and stuff like that. And if you do get a client, that's when like you could get a contract and have work for a long time. Have I messed with the airport that I bought the other day? The only thing I've done to the airport is there were a bunch of pink materials, so I fixed all the pink materials. I think there's like some vehicles in here that might have pink wheels or something, but like that truck. And I think there's some other vehicles. But I have not added collision to it yet. I think I'm going to wait on that because I'm not really driving the car around, so it's not a huge priority for me right now. What I really want to do at the airport is set up an animation loop so that I have airports landing and flying, like, or airplanes landing and flying every few minutes. So I think some of the things that really help to bring an open world scene to life are just what happens in the environment. So I want to have some boats in the water, airplanes flying around. Maybe a like hot air balloon somewhere, a blimp somewhere else. I want to put, well, I guess this is more like a bay, but I guess it's like a lake. I want to have some more water in here. I don't know where I'm going to put it yet, though. I think this will be like a riverbed. I really don't think there's much more I'm going to do tonight. I don't know what I want to do with this road yet. Do I want it to just cut across? See, how does the landscape currently feel over here? Well, I feel like for right now, I'll just extend this road a little bit, but I don't know where it's going to end up. I am actually not going to use a heavy water shader. So for like this, at least I think the thing with water shaders, they need to be very optimized. Anyway, the point that I'm making right now is that I don't have an expensive water shader. This is just a plane with a texture. Like, it's not even a shader. And the reason is because right now, like, the only place you were able to see the water was like maybe from up here, like right on this road segment. But I think the fog settings that I have, like, you really can't see the water, and you're kind of too high up and from a weird angle to where you can't see any detail. So it doesn't make sense spending any performance on water shader right now. But I would like to find a way in this main land area, the bigger part of the island, to get closer to the water and put a nice water shader in there. But I don't know which water shader I'm going to use yet. I've probably played with about 20 different water shaders over my time. When we were building the app for Carnival Cruise, that's we used water shaders in it. So we had to do a lot of research. Where'd that road go? But also, I'm not good at writing shaders. That's probably my weakest point is shaders. I can do shader stuff if I need to, like if I have to figure out how to edit a shader. To do something specific, I can probably figure it out. And I have done so in like a bunch of situations, but it's definitely not what I specialize in. I would actually love to get into shader development. I don't have enough free time to do so. I think in general, I'd rather complete projects that I can monetize than learn shader skills. Once I get into working with the HDRP, the high definition render pipeline, which I don't know when that will be, I'll probably start using shader graph. Hey, what's up, Stop Motion Studio? I think after I connect this road, I'll probably be ending the stream soon. I've been going for about 3 hours now. And this will put me in a good spot to pick up next week. Because now I have like just a lot more stuff filled in, and I can figure out what I'm gonna put here and here, here, here. Just need to fill in these areas. Yeah, no worries. Like, thanks for coming by to check it out. I'm happy for anybody that stops by, even if it's just for a moment to say hi. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, there's a Discord link in the YouTube channel and my YouTube channel. If any of you guys are working on racing games, there's a few people in the Discord. Actually, most of the people in the Discord are working on some type of racing game. And there's a channel where you guys could share your projects if you're interested. I encourage you to share. Some people like feedback, some people are just sharing their progress. And everybody's kind of at a different phase of their development. Some are beginners, some are more experienced. I'm just going to try to make this a little straighter. I hate having funky angles when I create the intersections, because sometimes they don't turn out right. Hey, that came out pretty good, actually. Very nice. This just needs to be brought down a little bit. Vinya, say what's up. He said, hello, bro. Can you keep a giveaway of your Unity assets? I don't know. Sometimes I volunteer, like, if you've heard of the Messy Coder, he does some stuff. He did a game jam not too long ago, and I donated a bunch of assets for him to distribute to the winners. So if there's like some kind of event, that's usually when I do giveaways. Stephen Walker. Hey, what's up, man? Thank you. Are you the same Stephen Walker I went to school with? If so, I haven't heard from you in years. Nice to hear from you, man. Do I enjoy driving in games more than in real life? Do I find it more relaxing? Um, I enjoy driving in games. Often when I'm doing the programming, especially for this game, I have I just find myself driving around, and I find that fun. It is you. Nice to hear from you, Steve. I was wondering how you were doing. I probably should have called you. But yes, I definitely enjoy driving around in games. I also enjoy driving around in real life. Um, I just like driving. Yeah, Stop Motion Studio. Join the Discord and post a link if you have a build. I'd be interested to check it out. Yeah, no problem. Well, if I'm not paying attention to chat, then like, what's the point in streaming? I kind of view it like I'm sitting in here and in this room by myself, just doing game dev stuff, and that's why I'm streaming, so I could like connect with people. And you guys are probably doing similar things and are probably interested in game dev in some way. Yeah, it is nice to be able to talk to other developers. I agree. Me personally, like I never really had an opportunity to talk with many other developers, because when I work, I would work remotely, and I just don't meet a whole lot of them. So I'm happy to be able to answer some of your questions, because I know what that feels like. I think most of the time when I was learning, I was just like Googling left and right, and I was always afraid to ask questions on the forums. Did this intersection break? It did, didn't it? Let's see if it broke or if it's just buried by the terrain. Yeah, it broke. Why did it break? I tried to delete it and redo it. I don't know how good mobile game software or how good game development software on mobile devices would be. I guess it depends what you're trying to do. I hope this intersection comes out good. It did come out okay. I'm going to save all this stuff and submit it to version control. I want to clean this up a little bit more before I'm done, but I did a lot of work today. I don't know if any of you guys saw last week, my power went out like an hour into the stream. And I had my noise canceling headphones on and I didn't have any lights on because it was earlier in the day. So I didn't realize the power was out until my computer just shut down because I didn't hear the UPS beeping. I was so upset. That was actually the first time I lost work in a long time. All right, where's Perforce at? And I don't even remember the last time I submitted. I'm just going to reconcile. Make sure I get everything in. Yeah, I haven't actually played mobile games in about 6 years. I was into them when I first got into Unity. And I was only into them because I was curious what people were making and I wanted to try to make mobile apps. But then I stopped wanting to make mobile apps because I feel like it's either like you do in-app purchases or ads. And I don't want to do in-app purchases. I feel like anybody who creates games with in-app purchases is intentionally making their game less fun. And as somebody who grew up loving playing games, drives me crazy that like you got to buy coins to do this, and then you have 6 different currencies just to play the game. It's like, can't you just make a fun game? And I think that's what made me stop playing mobile games. Okay, cool. So that's all submitted. Let me check out these roads. And I wonder why the road did not. Well, let me just do some terrain smoothing. And then I think that's probably going to be it. Tyler says a game he always wanted to make is an ambitious open world life sim with GTA and the Sims elements. I kind of feel like that's almost what GTA is working toward. I feel like a lot of the most ambitious AAA games are just a mesh up of all the other most popular game genres. I mean, I guess GTA is like completely different from The Sims, but it would be interesting playing like being a mob boss and telling everybody what to do and like a GTA thing. Kind of like, I don't know. I mean, this topic just reminded me of Saints Row. Saints Row was interesting. That was a fun game. I think it reflected society a little too well, which is kind of scary. I grew up in Chicago, so if you're from like a big city in the US, you probably know what I'm talking about. Oh, Saints Row turned into something different though. The first Saints Row was the good one. I think after that they started like getting wonky. The cool thing about it was like it was gangs, but not to say that gangs are cool, because gangs are not cool, and there's a lot of issues with that. But like from a gameplay perspective, it was a lot of fun to play that game. As you started taking over more territories, like the game just became more and more interesting. I think in some of the later Saints Rows, if I recall, they were like flying with jetpacks and stuff like that. Like at that point, like it wasn't Saints Row anymore. It was something different. And then I think they had aliens or something in it. Stop Motion Studio says he likes to make games with realistic graphics and good controls. Yeah, I think that's some of the most important things to get noticed is the graphics. And then if it doesn't feel good, people are not going to want to keep playing. It's that player feedback loop. All right, so I think I am going to just update these roads, save the scene, and then just do. Oh, it's interesting when I select all the roads, I get a nice view of what I've been creating. Little by little. The world is being built. One brick at a time. Maybe I should say one vert at a time. Oh, that still has an area that needs to be etched in. It's okay. Okay, update the road network one last time. Hopefully no intersections break. You said Saints Row, Tyler said Saints Row 2 was more like 1, and he hopes 5 goes back to that style. I highly doubt they'll go back to their roots. Maybe. I mean, Resident Evil did, and it did wonders for their game. I don't know if they will, though. I think probably because the game was just a little too realistic and violent. That's my guess. Stop Motion said the city is starting to look fantastic. Thank you. This is like just the base, though. Like, it's gonna look completely different once it's done. There's no trees yet. There's no landmarks. There's no. The road network's not done. Yeah, for some reason the road is not drawing over that terrain properly. Is there an option to clear the terrain history? Reset roads terrain history. Reset it. Yes. I feel like every time I've looked for that button in the past, I can't find it. Today I found it instantly. What is going on here? Again? I have a feeling I'm going to experience issues with this intersection for the rest of the development cycle. Let's reset this one too. I think I need to reset the terrain history on all of these roads. Okay, take 3. Tyler says, when I think of Chicago, I think of Watch Dogs 1. Yeah, Watch Dogs 1, that was a cool game. I never played it, but I watched a gameplay, long play on YouTube. And I enjoyed watching that gameplay. Especially because I like hacking and stuff. Like, it was just a game I was interested in. Watch Dogs does a great job at recreating real life cities. Yeah, I think that their open world design was really cool. Yeah, I saw some of that Legion. That's an interesting gameplay um, design that they came up with. There's so many games that I want to play right now. I'm going to go through all these roads and reset the terrain history. Because some of them are not working right from the smoothing. But yeah, there's so many games that I want to play right now. I just don't have the time to play them. It's kind of like I'm starting to make my bucket list of games. What have I wanted to play that I haven't played yet? There's a lot. Um, I wanted to play the Metroid Prime series. I have it. I just have not played it. Um, like not even including MMOs. Like I really wanted to play Final Fantasy 14. I bought it when it was first released when it was broken, like 10 years ago. And now they fixed it and they made it awesome and I never got a chance to play it and I'm not about to go and get sucked into an MMO. I never finished Final Fantasy 9. I still want to play that one. Never finished the BioShock games. Never finished Skyrim. I actually got killed by a wolf in Skyrim like when I first started and I never played it again after that. I could probably keep rattling off more games. I bought some Resident Evil games for PS4 recently. I want to try those. I did watch a playthrough of the Resident Evil 7 game. That game like just looks awesome. So I want to turn off all the lights and just see if it'll scare me. Okay. Save the scene again. And then obviously like the Watch Dogs games too. Like I never played those, but I would like to. Something that stops me from putting those high on the priority list, though, is like they really remind me of Assassin's Creed. Like I saw my brother played Assassin's Creed like crazy, and it yeah, like you could tell they reskinned a bunch of their stuff, like animations and stuff. I actually just bought a PlayStation 4 for the Final Fantasy 7 remake. I was gonna wait till PlayStation 5, but they had to release it while PlayStation 4 was still out. So, I think I'm just going to run the system again. Hopefully, it doesn't break. I mean, I really want to get back into World of Warcraft Battlegrounds. I love those. Like that was my favorite thing to do. But I don't want to grind a character. So I'll probably never do that again. It's still doing that. I guess I'll have to manually fix that. I don't know why that's happening. Let me see, maybe if I update one of these pieces. Hey, but that deleted my intersection. What the heck? This is one of those problems you get into where it's just like, I guess it's not going to fix itself. What do I do here? Let me try making that the same height. Have I ever played PlayStation 2? Yes. Back in the day when it was first released. Hey, that fixed it. But it broke that. What the heck? What the heck is going on here? I'm pretty sure Rockstar's going to remake their games. I think that's going to be the new trend, is to remake all the old games. Not to make new versions like like GTA 6 or 7. I mean, they're probably making GTA 6. Don't get me wrong. But I think that they're going to make a ton of money if they do a remake for Grand Theft Auto 3 and then 4. Or I don't even know what the numbers are, but San Andreas and Vice City and all that stuff, yeah. I think Capcom and Squaresoft were the first ones that started remaking games like from 10 and 20 years ago, and they're just doing an amazing job and everybody's buying them. So we'll probably see a lot more of that. I don't know why that road keeps doing that. I have an idea. I mean, the thing is, I like the height variation here. I'm pretty sure if I made all of these nodes around this intersection the same height level, that it would be fine. So I'll just have to detail that later. That's fine. See if the roads over here got fixed. These are still being... What's going on here? I want to finish all of this before I sign off for the night, because otherwise I'll have to clean all this up later. And one of the things I like to do before I finish is just not leave anything hanging. Something that needs to be fixed, for example. Yeah, this intersection got messed up too. It's all that smoothing I did. But also I'm starting to have a pretty large road network. I don't know when Road Architect starts breaking down. I never played Bully 2. I never played Bully. Every one of my intersections is messed up. I shouldn't say everyone, but a lot of them were. I really want to see David Jaffe come back and make Twisted Metal 4. Well, it's not Twisted Metal 4. Whatever. I guess Twisted Metal 2 again. Because the last Twisted Metal was just called Twisted Metal. So I'm guessing when PlayStation 5 comes out, there will be a new Twisted Metal. That was always one of the games that I looked forward to. And they didn't make one for PlayStation 4. Okay, cool. So this scene is in a good spot. If I had another team member, it would be easier for sure. Or wait, what did you say before that? Would I like to have another team member to help you, or am I fine working alone? Yeah, I would rather, for this project, I prefer to work alone. Like I could direct somebody and tell them what to do, but this particular project is my passion project, and I've basically been working on a racing game for the last 7 years, and that's how I've built up my skill set and teach myself new things and discover how to build new assets. So it's kind of like, this is my secret lab. So I'm selfish with it. Nobody can come in. But that's just this project. I'm not opposed to working with other people. I think the project just has to make sense. I think Sony never made another PlayStation or another Twisted Metal because the differences between PlayStation 3 or 4, like I don't really see how much better of a Twisted Metal game they could have made. But with PlayStation 5, like you got instant loading, so your worlds can be as big as you want. Well, I shouldn't say instant, but like they're actually using a proper SSD now, so. Oh, here's another section that didn't work. So I think now is a good time for the next Twisted Metal. If they don't make it now, they're never going to. Yeah, I played Tomb Raider. I don't remember which one I played. I played a few of them. I think I played them on the original PlayStation. I don't know if I played a PlayStation 2 Tomb Raider. Let me just check all of these intersections one more time because I thought they were all there, but I just found one that wasn't. And then I'm going to do a drive through of the city. Oh, again, like anytime I touch one of them, another one breaks. And let's see if this one is back. And that one's still there. Good. This is the most complicated part of building a large road network with Road Architect. Sometimes there's some little bugs that just keep surfacing for some reason. And they're causing issues in other parts of the road network. Yeah, there was a game I tried to beat that I couldn't beat a long time ago. It was called Ninja Gaiden for Xbox. I just could not beat that game. I tried so hard. And I had to just give up. And I was really loving the story. Okay, it looks like they're all kind of here now. Let me just check this one again. Okay, nothing disappeared. Good. All right, let's save this and do a drive-through. I don't really try to beat games anymore. Sometimes I'm just happy playing them. If it gets too hard, I just kind of give up. Because that just means that's not a game that I'm enjoying once it gets difficult. And then I'll just watch somebody play it on YouTube. I've never heard of dangerous driving. I might look that up later. Well, this takes a moment to load. I could look it up right now. Where'd my browser go? Yeah, that looks like a burnout type game. The only thing I don't like about this game, like when they hit the nitro, the FOV for the camera just zooms out so far that it distorts the world in a way that it's not visually appealing to my eyes. I wouldn't play a game like this. The way like they're driving around and crashing though, that kind of reminds me of Crazy Taxi. Driving around recklessly. I remember playing Crazy Taxi back in the pizzeria. I think it cost $1 to play or something like that. That game was fun. 172 square miles. That's pretty big. Yeah, some of these worlds that they're making for these games are just insane. We're probably going to see some popping. I think I baked the occlusion culling last time I played, but it probably needs to be baked again. I have no idea where I am in this world. Yeah, it definitely needs to be baked again. I see stuff popping already. I think that's the new road to the tunnel that I built. I'm not going to go up there though. I'm just going to drive around the regular city. That is already built. That looks cooler than this outskirts stuff. Oh, some kind of bump in the road. Now my car's stuck. There's going to be so much detail work to this game. I don't even want to think about how long it's going to take to finish. And that's why I only work on it 1 day a week. Frame rate. Oh, because I selected that car. Unity editor is weird. It's like you have an object selected while you're in edit mode, and it's like lose 75% of your performance. I think they definitely need to fix some of that stuff. I'm using a Cinemachine camera right now, and I really miss my default camera because I was able to look left and right, but I haven't built that in. Wow, there's a lot of areas in the city that got messed up. They were previously detailed. I think I'm gonna have to go back and grab an old version of the terrain to fix that, because I don't think I want to go back and redetail this whole section of the city. Yeah, I really want to come in and play with the graphics more, but now is definitely not the time for that. That'll be like the last thing that I do. I think whatever visual style I have right now is just for like the initial testing and prototype. Just to make sure I could do things like have all of these streetlights on that I can drive into and then they turn off. And have decent performance. Hey there, copper. You're not gonna do anything to me, are ya? Nope. This is just a dumb cop. He doesn't know that I'm ramming into him. Yeah, so I probably do want some cop cars in my open world, but that is something I need to program, so I don't know if it'll ever happen. You said you wonder if Dangerous Driving 2 map will have more than one city. The map is bigger, like 2.5 times bigger than GTA 5. Yeah, that's a good question. I would expect a map like that to have multiple cities. But then again, cities can be very big. I always get a kick out of it because this has an old version of my traffic system where, like, when the cars were spawning, they didn't check to see if it was clear. So the traffic car spawns on top of another car. So many bugs I need to fix. Yeah, I've been thinking about the vehicle controller. I will probably use NWH vehicle physics. Wow, there's so much that got broken over here. Like, all of this stuff was fixed. Just driving around this area. Yeah, I need to go back and revert the terrain. The only problem is the same terrain is used on the big side of the island as is over here, so I need to split it up. So that'll probably be the last thing one of the last things that I do. I guess once I'm done with that whole other island, creating road architect stuff. Ninja Gaiden. Yes, you played that game, but only beat level 2. Level 3 was really hard. Yeah, I gave up on Ninja Gaiden. I think the one I was playing was Ninja Gaiden Black. Well, everyone, thanks for hanging out with me while I built some stuff. I think at this point, I'm going to call it a night. I will see you guys next week. Have a good night.